It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Today, 43 years ago on this very day, the sainted Ronald Reagan fired the Patco workers in what I call the shot heard cross the boardroom, where, hey, corporate America, it's time to go after those workers. Open season on unionized workers. And understand, when I started working, union density in this country was around 30%, 25% in the private sector. That was 1985. 1979, there were around 21 million unionized workers in this country. Now you're around 14 million. Understand, from 1979 to now, our population has exploded. And, well, the unions have not. And the reason, again, comes back to this day in 1981 when Reagan fired the Patco workers. Not only fired them, but banned them from federal employment ever again. Now you fast forward all these years, and right now we're sitting at about 10% union density, as opposed to the 25% when I entered the workforce. 6% in the private sector, about 33% in the public sector. Which is why, again, you have the Republicans who are hell-bent on going after government unions, because that's where the power is. That's where the density is. And understand, during Reagan's tenure, outside of the firing of the Patco workers, there was mass opposition to unions. They supported the no rights at work agenda. They refused to raise the minimum wage. They went after collective bargaining rights. They went after union rights. They did everything they could do to hold down, to hamper workers' ability to organize, especially as their high dollar policy was shipping millions of jobs out of this country. So as we were deindustrializing the country, we were not allowing new industries to unionize. And again, you wonder why our standard of living has been falling from that period to now. Here's a huge part of it. And Reagan, during his term, appointed horrible people to the Department of Labor, horrible people to the National Labor Relations Board. These are anti-union people in charge of organizations that are supposed to help workers, supposed to encourage collective bargaining. Understand what our law says and what it means. The government is supposed to encourage collective bargaining. The idea is that you solve problems locally. The employer and the employees, they come together and they bargain collectively. Maybe you've heard this. It's called collective bargaining. And they solve problems locally. You don't need big overarching government to tell you what to do, but encourage people to come together and talk. Reagan was the guy who really put his boot on the neck of working people. And, you think about all of the massive tax breaks that he gave to the very wealthy in corporate America. You think about all of the things that they did to shift the balance of power. The pendulum of power swung to the wealthy and to corporations in enormous ways as we were deregulating, as we weren't raising the bottom up. In fact, we demonized the poor. If you remember, the welfare queen, she was driving around in a Cadillac, drinking dumb, eating steak every day on your dime. And everyone knows who the welfare queen was supposed to be. Looks a lot like the woman who's running for president, if you listen to them. And understand, this narrative that they paint, this image that they paint, it's powerful. It's divisive. And it's been used masterfully to destroy what was once the most prosperous working class in the history of humanity. Reaganomics did that. Neoliberalism did that. This push towards sending all of our jobs overseas and saying, you could just get an education. You could do something else. You could do something in the service sector. You could wash my dog or wash my windows. And those good, high-paying union jobs, those are gone, never to come back. And Reagan was one of those guys who, at every front, did what he could do to hold down. Now, again, remember, it was the time. When I started working, Ohio was about 30% union density in the private sector. Pennsylvania, where I now live, was about 33% union density. Now you're talking somewhere in the for the private sector. In a state like Pennsylvania, to be under 14% is enormous. And the idea was, to create a desperation class of workers. And they've done that masterfully. And now fast forward here to Project 2025, where they're telling us they want to finish the job. They want to pick up the mantle that Reagan started today, 43 years ago, and they want to finish it off. We're going to let the free market, the invisible hand, decide. And how's that invisible hand been working out? I know it's been giving me the invisible finger, because I go back to this era. When I started working in 1985, the first union job I got had considerably more disposable income. And if you use that little Bureau of Labor Statistics thing, that little widget they got from the inflation calculator, was making a lot more. So the question is where did that wealth go? Where did the wealth that my wages used to help me create, where did that go? Well, we know where it went. It went to the very wealthy, to Elon Musk, to Bezos, to people who aren't paying taxes. And we are now living the Reagan dream. Rich people walk away from, shirk their responsibility, and poor people are, desperate enough to take crummy jobs at crummy wages. And it all started really heavy with the firing of 11,000 air traffic controllers. And why were they fired? Because they had the audacity to say they wanted to be paid a reasonable wage, and they wanted to get rid of the antiquated equipment that was stressing them out to the point of exhaustion. Something we never talk about. Oh, and by the way, Reagan had said he supported all of that stuff while he was running for office. While he was campaign Reagan, he was on their side, as President Reagan jabbed him in the back. Oh, and one last thing. All those people who lost their jobs and had to collect unemployment, because of Reagan, they began taxing unemployment for the very first time. It's one of those little niceties that Reagan stuck in there for you. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Sarah Burris after this.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I got an email from Robert in New Mexico asking if I knew about Trump's Secretary of Retribution, and asked if I was on the targeted list of 350 people who Trump wants to arrest. And I don't know. I honestly, I kind of would be proud to be on the list. 350 is a big number, but not really big enough when you're looking at the number of people who Trump, I'm sure, has an axe to grind with. But, well, I guess we may find out. But to have a Secretary of Retribution, really? Why not? Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the top stories of the day and all the fun and entertainment going on this political season. Our good friend Sarah Burris, reporter over at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website. Sarah, thanks for taking time for us.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. So, any chance of finding out who these 350 people are?
God, I wish, right? I'm pretty sure that it's most elected Democrats, and then probably some of the media people. That the thing about Trump, though, is like he has a love-hate relationship with the media, right? So it's like he hates all of these people, like Nicole Wallace and Jake
Maggie
Tapper
Haberman.
and those folks. Right. But then he also desperately needs them. So, I always am nervous that, that I am on the list, not simply because I'm a big deal, but because I'm accessible. Like I'm just up the road. It would be really easy to just snatch me because, I'm like a mile and a half away. So that always makes me really nervous. And my mother tells me things like, why don't you come home before, inauguration instead?
Yeah, no, as I've said,
like
I'm not afraid of heights. I prefer not to be up high.
Right.
And I don't bounce as well as I used to. So if you hear me falling out of a 5th floor window, it was not voluntary.
Yeah, definitely. Thank God I don't live on the 5th floor.
So there you go. But is it surprising that this conversation would come up? That there would be, because look, he said that he wants retribution, he wants payback, he wants all this stuff. So would it be surprising if we had a czar of retribution?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think what would end up happening is that immediately there would be a congressional investigation or a Senate investigation into that department. And I think, would it be under the Department of Justice? Like, would it be for the FBI? Or I just don't know how necessarily it would function, and how I think the second you end up in court with these people, there's no real way to fight something like that from the Trump perspective. Like there's no law that gives him that ability, unless he passes an executive order, at which point then
he's got
it's
immunity.
Put on hold. Yeah, I mean but I think in terms of just the actual functioning of the government and whether the government can do something like that, I think it ends up, being shut down by a federal judge, going to the Supreme Court, and then you have a question of, does the Supreme Court love Donald Trump enough to essentially eliminate the First Amendment? And I mean, I'm sure there are probably a couple of judges who'd be fine with it.
And that is the weird place that we find ourselves, isn't it? Also, I'm sure you saw over the weekend the clip of Donald Trump saying that how smart Vladimir Putin was, and how Putin made a great deal, and my mind goes to this place. I really, every time he says something like this, I'm a little bit surprised that someone would vote for someone who says those things. But then again, I kind of shake myself and go, no, we're in weird MAGA world.
We are in weird MAGA world. I mean, look at JD Vance. Like, that guy has the worst approval rating of any vice presidential nominee running mate in something like 44 years, is what I heard on NPR. 44 years. That's older than me. So, that's, I mean, we're talking about, that includes Dan Quayle, dude. I mean, that's pretty bad, right? When you're worse than Dan Quayle, something ain't right.
So something's not right. And look, he's an unlikable guy because, he's got really bizarre ideas, and it's this kind of draconian, we're going to make the 1950s great again with a huge authoritarian bend.
That's exactly it. And it's not, there's no real other way to say it than weird, right? It's not normal. It's like there is this obsession that people like JD Vance has with every minute detail in a woman's life, right? Like from her cycle, from her pregnancy, from the number of cats that she has. I mean, are we going to start regulating cats now? Like,
We should. We should. I'm not a cat person. I could get on board with that.
Oh man, come on. I'm pro animal across the board.
I'm pro animal, just not cats. You can have them. I don't want a cat, although I've got one. But here's the thing, and you bring up the fact that this weird frame has been around for a while. I mean, look, you could go back and look at January 6th, a lot of weird going on there. You could go back and look at the Tea Party. You go back and look at all of these movements of the extreme right. Weird comes to mind an awful lot. And, finally now we're just kind of picking up that word. I thought bizarre, bat blank crazy. I thought a lot of those things in the past, but weird seems to have stuck.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. But I think one of the articles that I wrote this week has been a clinical psychologist who talked about the benefits of that word, the specificity it has, and the fact that it basically just shuts down the argument. That just saying something, it's not like saying, oh, I disagree with you, or the facts say something else. If you just go, well, that's weird, and walk off, then that just kind of shuts everything down.
Yeah, but I always thought crazy would do that, but these people didn't mind crazy. Weird seems to bother them.
Which is super interesting, I think.
Which is weird.
Right? I think crazy maybe was, I don't know, maybe normies didn't like that word as much, but I think everybody seems to agree that this is not normal.
Right.
And I feel like the whole first term of Donald Trump, we talked about, don't get used to this. Don't get accustomed to this being the new normal. It should not be normal. Right. These things are not normal, and don't accept it as normal. So I think calling it weird is really, it's just the new way of saying, don't buy into the fact that this is where we are now.
Like I've seen some weird social media stuff. Like one of my favorite ones is someone asked the question why Kamala Harris's name isn't Emhoff, and like a serious question, and someone explained the same reason that Ivanka Trump's name isn't Kushner. The same reason there's a bunch of this going on. Mind your own business. But I think my favorite meme was, you've got these people who go, Donald Trump's going to fight for the country. He's going to fight for us. I saw one that was just a classic response to that.
Yeah, one of my favorites was Donald Trump will do whatever it takes to fight for the country. And then somebody just responded, except for the bone spurs.
Bone spurs, yeah. So, I mean, fortunately, I think now you're starting to see some of the weird, some of the crazy, some of the bizarre, some of the not normal being called out in a way that people are finally, I think, maybe shaking awake. And I'm hoping that the not extreme, because you're never going to get the 5s, but the 4s start going, maybe this is weird. Maybe we do need a little change.
I agree. And I think, you're right. You're always going to have the 5s that are on Trump's side, and they're going to be the loyalists. But you start talking about the 3s and the 4s who maybe don't vote in every election, but do in presidentials. And, I think those folks would look at somebody like J.D. Vance and look at the way that this campaign is being run and think, either I'm out entirely or God forbid they vote for, actually what we're seeing in polling is that a bunch of people from Trump's side have been switching to RFK Jr. And then a bunch of RFK Jr. people have moved from him over to Harris, who were previously anti-Biden. That was probably the most interesting thing that I saw in a couple of the polls, the post-RNC poll and post-Harris first week poll. That batch of polling was super interesting to see, that Steve Bannon really wanted RFK Jr. in this, thinking that, he's a big Democratic name. He'll pull away a bunch of votes from Joe Biden. And now it looks like it's happening the other way around.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're going to look back at this cycle and say, Trump came out of the convention, no bump, and has tanked since.
Yeah, I mean, the dude got shot at. He had the convention. He named, his VP candidate, these are all things that in traditional politics and in a normal election would give the candidate a bump. But I mean, I think you and I were talking after the shooting thing where I was like, I don't think he's going to get a bump. I think people are where they are. They are locked in, and there is a 1%, wiggle room here. And I don't know that issues like that matter to them.
No, we've talked about this for a while. I don't think there are any new Trump voters. I think it's just going to be a matter of who. If you get enough people to come out to the polls on that day, if it doesn't rain, and that's the sad thing about having our elections on a Tuesday. But what's interesting to me, and again weird, is that you've got a guy running for president, wanting to lead the most powerful nation in the world, and he's out there hawking sneakers and crypto. I mean, it's weird. Again, I hate to keep using that weird word, but it's weird.
But again, this is someone who has astronomical legal fees and desperately needs some money. So of course he's going to try and figure out how to merchandise everything. That's who he's been his whole life, right? Trump steaks, Trump vodka, Trump wine, Trump University, across the board. So of course Trump sneakers are going to be next because the Trump hat has been huge. But the Trump hat is a campaign thing. So he had to come up with something that is specific to him and to his brand, and a gold sneaker is the way to do it. Then he got involved in all these crypto bros. And so he branded a bunch of sneakers, gold sneakers that say Bitcoin on them. And now that is the marriage that is just, I didn't see that one coming.
Not on my bingo card. But here's the thing. Shouldn't he be thinking about how, I don't know, to improve healthcare, to maybe have a policy on investing in infrastructure, have a policy to reshore manufacturing? Oh, never mind. Biden's already done all that. But shouldn't he be talking about what he wants to do instead of trying to fleece the flock? I mean, that's the part that gets me. The one thing that he's come out, I guess he's now in favor of crypto. This is weird to me because I don't know any red hats who are in favor of digital currency.
That really struck me whenever he posted. So after he posted the thing about his, crypto tennis shoes, he talked about, he made some comment about how, maybe this is the way that we save our economy. We just change the American dollar into crypto. And I was just like, you have no clue. There is no economist in the world who is going to be okay with that. Just none. And you're right. That's for red hats and for people who are really big on privacy and don't right. Not just uterus privacy, but don't want their names on stuff and, want to be able to hide from the government. Those right-wing prepper people, they're not going into crypto. There's no way. They're stuffing their mattresses full.
No, I mean, look, the reality is I'm not in favor of digital currency for a lot of the reasons that you laid out there. But more importantly, I just think having that kind of control mechanism is just bad. Whether you're on the side of the Joe Rogans and the extreme right and they're going to turn off your currency, or if you're on my side of going, I like to have a little money in my pocket. Not everything should be a credit card or a debit card, or heaven forbid they start chipping our hand with cash chips. I'm not gonna lose that.
I know, and thank God there are enough hipsters in the world who are just totally against that, and will always stand up for actual cash and a good hot top hat. Gotta love it.
Finally, we got to get your thoughts on Elon Musk, since we're talking weird. It's weird seems to be the thing. What's going on with him? What's this new report that's come out?
Okay, so this is wild to me. He has a super PAC that he's called America PAC. Donald Trump's super PAC is called Save America PAC. So they're pretty similar. Basically what he has done is he's dumped $800,000 into Google ads and Facebook ads and YouTube ads. And he's asking people to register to vote, except whenever you put in your information, here's my email address and here's my zip code. If you're in a non-swing state, like Oklahoma, Washington, D.C., places like that, it kicks you over to the website where you, as a citizen of that state, would register to vote. Now, if you're in a swing state, what it does is kick you over to this massive form that asks for every single detail about you. I mean, basically like firstborn blood type kind of stuff, right? And then at the end of it, it just says, thank you. And it doesn't kick you over to any voter registration. It hasn't registered you to vote. And so everybody's kind of like sitting back going, whoa, this is straight up fraud. Like, you're telling people that you're registering them to vote, and then you're basically just stealing their data, and they're not being registered to vote even though they think that they are.
Yeah, because I can see people going, look, I went through the form because I thought it was the voter registration form. I didn't know Elon was sitting up at night, breathing heavy, reading my information.
Yeah. And they're going to turn that into a campaign where then he wants to spend money, where he knocks on those doors and gets those people out to the polls. But again, like if somebody has thought that they had registered to vote and Elon Musk didn't register them to vote, it's not going to matter if he GOTVs those people, because they're not registered. So I don't know what he's thinking, but his model is really stupid. But there is a completely horrifying piece of how dishonest and fraudulent that kind of thing is. And I really hope that somebody investigates it, like DOJ investigates it.
No, I can look at this and go, okay, as long as you answer the questions right, we'll then help you to register. If you answer the questions wrong, you go into this purgatory, this limbo land, and you don't get to vote. And I kind of see that this could be one of those ways that you segregate out the people you don't want to vote and focus on the people that you do based on how they answer your series of questions. So this is really, really kind of nefarious.
It's definitely nefarious. And I mean, again, like, this is why I think, there should be some kind of fraud investigation.
There ought to be a law.
There should be a law. There is a website. It is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, completely normal website called vote.org. You register to vote online. It registers you for every single state. No candidate is getting this information. Nobody's making money off of this. Like, it is a legitimate, safe place for people to update their registrations and register themselves to vote. So go there instead, please.
Yeah, when we come back, Bob Ney is going to be here, former Ohio Congressman, political analyst. He helped write the Help America Vote Act. So maybe this would be a good question for Bob when we come back. But Sarah, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Have a good week, and hi to Bob.
Here you go, our good friend Sarah Burris. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Are we surprised it's Elon? And doesn't weird kind of fit perfectly there? I think so. Back after this.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So this Elon Musk thing has really got me kind of looking sideways at how antiquated our laws are, for one. But, the fact that you have this billionaire, guy who's worth, $235 billion, owns one of the largest social media platforms in Twitter, and has really done some very shady kind of stuff, retweeting AI stuff. I mean, just questionable. And clearly with his thumb on the scale, saying, he was going to, he's going to give $45 million a month to the Trump campaign that pulled out. And now we find about this America PAC that he's given $800,000 to go and cause trouble with. And oh, by the way, now this thing with the voter registration seems like something I should ask someone about. And that's why I've asked my good friend Bob Ney to come share some thoughts. Bob is the former Ohio Congressman and political analyst, guy who a couple years back helped write the Help America Vote Act. Maybe he's got a thought. Bob, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you, Rick.
So have you seen this Musk thing? This website that's going, hey, you want to register to vote? And if you're in a non-swing state, it just shoots you, click on the thing, shoots you right to the voter registration page. Boom, boom, boom. You fill it out. You're registered to vote. But if you're in a place like where I live in Pennsylvania or in Michigan, a battleground state, a swing state, It's taking a whole bunch of information, throwing some ads at you, doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I think at the end, leaving people to either believe they've registered or not sure. This seems like there should be a law or a real fuzzy gray area.
Yes, at the end it says, "Thank you!" exclamation point. So you could say, "Oh,
for what?
I registered. Thank you." But actually they didn't. We passed the Help America Vote Act in 2002, Steny Hoyer and myself, and we had Ted Kennedy, Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Comprehensive act making it easier to vote, harder to cheat. That was the whole premise. Now, it did a whole series of things, which at the time looked into overvoting, undervoting, provisional ballots, people being turned away, the issues of the day. Now, Help America Vote Act still has life to it, but there are always new things. And if you don't have a law to look at the new things, then those new things, which could potentially be illegal, unethical, immoral, or right out, falsification, will be legal until somebody says, "Hey, wait a minute, we've got to do something about that." So when you look at what he's doing, which we don't really know completely what he does with the information, but you're right, he mines the information. There are other billionaires that have put money into this PAC. This is the other weird thing. This PAC is allowed to coordinate with the Trump campaign. Now, we all know about super PACs, Rick, that they're supposed to keep wink and nod at arm's distance. We always know that, well, there's somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that says, "Hey, here's what we're going after right now." So, but at least there's some laws that are supposed to keep walls intact. In this one, I don't think there's anything currently that forbids direct coordination where you can say to the Trump campaign, "Okay, where do you want to go now? What area are we looking at now?" But the big key to this is, as you said, the swing states, if you answer you're from there, they mine the information, they have the information, but at that point in time, they're not doing anything with it. They're not forwarding you to a state to register. So do they go back? They have your information. Do they target an ad? Do they have your email? What are they doing? And there needs to be obviously an update of the law for these types of things. Also, AI. That's another thing that is going to have to be updated when it comes to campaigns.
No, and look, here's the thing. Here's the problem. Our system doesn't move quickly. Our government does not, clearly, as well as anyone, we don't move on a dime. And elections, 90 days away. It seems like this is going to happen. Whatever gimmick that they're playing, whatever ploy they're using is going to actually happen. And then we're going to have to fight from behind after they've done what it is they're going to do. And my fear is, like a lot of this stuff, the bad guys win. And then down the road, they get a slap on the wrist, if that. And, what can we do?
Right, because the Federal Election Commission itself, if there are current laws about coordination or mining information or forwarding a person or not to a voting site, then there are current laws. So the Federal Elections Commission tomorrow morning can look at this. I suspicion, because look, Musk has a lot of money, as we know, the most on earth. So I suspicion some well-paid attorneys have figured out the loopholes and figured out the way to go around any of the current laws, what I suspicion.
Yeah, maybe, but there's the other part of me that goes, I don't think Elon Musk cares. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. And this is one of those, they're victimizing me kind of things. They're coming after me. This is a guy who really, I believe, thinks he is above the law and that there's no law that should apply to him. So why would this be any different? I was always under the impression that super PACs could not coordinate with the campaigns. I believed there was a wall of separation.
Right.
And yet we're being told otherwise. Now, is this because it's Elon Musk and billionaires? And isn't this, for me, another reason why we should be taxing these people out of existence?
What is it? The old expression, it's easier to apologize later.
Yeah.
You know, there's an old expression like that. And in this case, maybe he doesn't care. You
Yeah.
know, what are they
It's
going to
easier
do? Leverage a $300,000 fine on him?
Yeah,
Nope.
it's easier to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Yeah, I
There
get
you
it. No, and look, this could be part of that, but in the process, because again, as we talk about all the time, this election is going to come down to a handful of votes in a handful of states, and by him and this group of billionaires mining this data and separating, you know, who they should register to vote and who maybe they shouldn't. That again, this could be that thumb on the scale.
Right. Or to take it also one step further, if the person has the feeling or the illusion, or they have in any way, they meaning Elon Musk and this PAC, have made them think that they are now registered, then that takes it even a worse direction.
Yeah. Again, you got to wonder how many people are going to show up on election day, as you pointed out, and go, "Hey, I registered. Sure. Elon. I did Elon's webpage. It said thank you."
Right.
Wow. And again, this is the kind of stuff that look, you know, the Republicans and big money have figured out over decades, and sadly, the working folks get stiffed almost every time. I want to get your thoughts also on. I'm sure you saw Jim Justice's comments
Yes.
about Republicans maybe shouldn't have pushed so hard to get rid of Biden. Maybe they should have kept him around, because I don't know if you saw the most recent polling. It looks like Harris is kind of bumped ahead, which is weird coming out of the convention. You know, Trump got no bump whatsoever, and it's like they've tanked ever since the convention.
Actually, I read the Jim Justice article, governor of West Virginia. I read it in Moundsville, West Virginia today. So very authentic. Okay. That's where I was today when I read the article, actually. And it's a very interesting article because, you know, Governor Justice is saying, hey, you know, maybe the dog, well, he didn't say the dog caught the car, but he's saying maybe the dog caught the car, that, you know, that they moved too much on it. And then they had, you know, Joe Biden leave the race. Maybe they shouldn't have pushed so hard in that direction. Now, afterwards here, after, you know, Biden is gone out of the race, and you're right, the bump out of the convention was not there in the first place, because this also happened, you know, right away. I think within a short period of time, where Biden then decided to leave, and Harris, you can look at all the polls, but I think the significant poll are the swing states, because in Harris's favorability, she was only about 2 points above Joe Biden. She was below him at one point in time in polling as a VP. And after she announced she was going to run, she went up 2. That was to 39. Then she went, and this is significant, to 50. All right. And some people would say, well, that's only 50. It doesn't matter, because right now, let's put that aside and let's look at the swing state polling. Now, you can look at all different swing state polling. One shows Kamala Harris ahead 10 in Michigan. I'm going to go conservative on this and say that she's ahead 2 in Michigan, which she's ahead, you know, versus where Biden was. Now,
Correct.
Michigan is significant because a lot of young progressive voters were against Joe Biden to the tune of 100,000 people who would not commit a vote to him. So obviously she's bringing back, or she wouldn't be 2 points ahead. She's bringing back some of those lost, you know, young progressive voters, and she'll have to, you know, keep at that. But when you look at the other states where Trump is still ahead, his margins have definitely decreased. So I think that's one of the factors. Now, Rick, I've always told our campaign people for the 24 years that I ran in my own campaigns, and for the years that I was involved in other campaigns for over 4 decades, I've always said, if you lose, and I don't know why I picked 3 weeks, but I do. If you lose momentum in a campaign over a 3-week period, and it goes beyond that, you have a hard time to get that momentum back. And I've always said that. This is 2 weeks has passed, I think, and into a third week, and then of course the Democratic National Convention. So if you look at the Trump campaign, they had a bad J.D. Vance week. Trump is now out and kind of on what I'll call a stale course. Now, some people would say, well, Bob, it never was cerebral, but it's taking a different turn. It simply is. And some people, I think, are sitting there saying, people coming out of the rallies are going on their record, still supporting him, but saying, what happened? You can definitely see and feel that this race is taking a dynamic of its own.
No, and look, the truth of the matter is Trump doesn't know how to deal with this situation, and nobody in his campaign evidently war gamed out the idea that there could be another candidate, which, I agree with the former Trump comms person who said someone should be fired for not having that kind of a just in case a plan B on how you were going to deal with her. Considering they've got unlimited money. I mean, they've got Musk money. They should be able to figure this stuff out.
Well, plus he's not paying all the legal fees now also. He has that money that he, would have had to have paid for the legal fees.
Yeah, I mean, he's just he's devolving. And look, I talked about this earlier. The fact that he was praising Putin on the deal that sent Americans home, and what is the largest hostage swap since the Cold War. You would think maybe I don't know. Maybe not be like Nancy Mace and claim that the President Biden's MIA. I don't know where these folks are. It seems like some weird alternative reality.
Well, also, but look, Trump campaign does what the Trump campaign does all the time, which was to make a statement. When they came home, Trump brought them home, and then the media puts that out there that they said Trump brought them home. Then the White House has to counter that. No, he didn't. And yes, we did. So he gets his fingers in that piece of media. They've always done that type of thing. But this is going to go beyond, whether he was influential in this, or not, and into, some other base issues. Plus, Trump has to define Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris, although she's the VP, a lot of people, let's face it, may not know her or the record or, what she did in the Senate. So Trump's campaign has to define her. But right now, they can't get that edge in there. They can't do it. One of the reasons is they've spent how many days defining where they were at or what they meant by the fact of was she black or South Asian, which does she consider herself? They spent days on that issue, which was nowhere, was ridiculous. So I don't see the campaign doing what they need to do, which is to quickly define her. Instead, you see the gimmicks, Elon Musk, and and we brought the people back home from Russia. You see what I call the political gimmicks versus the campaign being able to get in there and create what it wants to say about Kamala Harris. This gives her the inroad, Rick, as you know, to say what she needs to say about herself.
Yeah, no, she's been able to define herself because they can't help being racist and misogynistic. I mean, that's the weird part. And even Mike Johnson, the speaker, is like, hey, how about we not?
Right, exactly. He told people, don't do that.
How about your visceral inclinations, you kind of bury those a little bit. Because I keep saying, keep hammering on her for being a DEI hire. Keep hammering on her because you don't think she's very bright. Keep going after her because you don't think she's that intelligent. Keep doing that so that if they ever do get on a debate stage and she wipes the stage with him, that's not going to look good for him. So on that front, do you think there'll be a debate?
Yes.
There will be a debate.
I know that he has said, well, ABC, and he's mad at them, and there's a lawsuit and all that stuff. I know that. But there'll be a debate. Now, he wanted the Fox debate, but I do believe there'll be a debate. I think that she will, use the chicken thing, but also I think the pressure to debate will be great. So I'm gonna make a bet that there will be a debate, one debate.
Yeah, I think there has to be. But did you know though, Bob? Trump's got some new sneakers out, crypto sneakers.
No. Well, he was against crypto originally, but he's into that now because, well, for some reason, the Republicans versus Democrats, for some reason, have gotten into this whole crypto deal.
Which is weird.
It is. Yeah.
But, because look, I don't know any red hats who are in favor of a digital currency at all. And crypto is kind of unstable.
Sure.
And I mean, we're going to see. I guess we've got new crypto sneakers.
Can you take crypto money for campaigns? Can you use it?
That's a good question. I don't know. You're the guy who wrote the law. Can you?
You can take it. I'm not sure that it, that they can call the media and say, well, we're going to pay for the ads in crypto. I don't know that goes down well.
That is a good question. Something this is why we need updated laws. Lots of updates. But Bob, as always, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rick.
Our good friend Bob Ney. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to be getting yourself a pair of those crypto sneakers? The other ones didn't sell really well. And I know a guy who actually, he colored his shoes like a gold color, spray painted them and wrote Trump on them. Those were cheaper. But $400 seems like really crazy kind of money for a pair of tennis shoes. Just my thoughts. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1993. That was the day that the Family Medical Leave Act went into effect. Union members worked hard to support this legislation, testifying before Congress and holding rallies. It was an uphill battle to pass the bill. Starting in 1984, family medical leave was brought before Congress. Year after year, the bill failed to win enough votes. In 1991, it finally passed Congress, but was vetoed by President George H.W. Bush. He vetoed it again the following year. Then, in February of 1992, newly elected President Bill Clinton signed the FMLA into law. It guaranteed that most employers with 50 or more workers must give their employees up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for a serious health condition for themselves, their spouse, parent, or child. In his speech signing the act, President Bill Clinton declared, quote, "This bill will strengthen our families, and I believe it will strengthen our businesses and our economy as well." He went on to say, "I know that men and women are more productive when they are sure they won't lose their jobs because they're trying to be good parents, good children. Our businesses should not lose the services of these dedicated Americans. And over the long run, the lessons of the most productive companies in the world, here at home and around the world, are that those who put their people first are those who will triumph in the global economy." He said that family and medical leave is a matter of pure common sense and a matter of common decency. It will provide Americans what they need most, peace of mind. Never again will parents have to fear losing their jobs because of their families. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com. Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. Questions, comments, something on your mind. I want to hear it. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. So, evidently, Donald Trump, I'm sure you may have heard, pulled out of the debate. Not something that Trump usually does, but pulled out of the debate. I guess offered another one a couple of days sooner. September 4th, I guess, is going to be what he threw out there on Fox in front of an arena. He definitely wants the circus atmosphere because I think he needs that. I think he needs that kind of that to feed off the crowd kind of thing. So of course, he's going to pack some loyalists in there, some red hats in there. Make it a ruckus affair. Not going to learn anything about his policies because clearly has none. He's too busy selling sneakers. That's crazy. Now Kamala Harris has said that. They're planning on showing up on September 10th on ABC. Even if Trump doesn't show up, plan on using the time. And I think that's a smart thing. Just don't go up with a chair. maybe the Trump cutout. I'm pro Trump cutout. Not an empty chair. We learned from Clint Eastwood. But the weird thing is remember when, Trump was the big bravado guy? Remember when, he was, even now after pulling out, he's still attacking Kamala Harris. What did he say on Truth Social? She doesn't have the mental capacity to debate him. Isn't that what you want? Wouldn't that be something that you would want to be able to have someone who's not going to be able to stand up to you? Now, understand, I think she's going to whip his behind. This is someone who I hope she's learned the lesson from Hillary, and to go in there with a little fight in you, and a little bit of stand up for yourself kind of thing. Because Hillary tried to be nice, she tried to be presidential. I think you got to go in there and be a scrapper. I think you got to put him in his place. That might win some of even his audience. I've had a couple of conversations with people who I got to tell you, I was a little shocked that they're open to the idea of someone other than the Trump at this moment, because Trump's got nothing new. There's no new material. This is that comedian that comes around every year and does the same tired act year after year after year. No new material. It's the same stuff. Just with different names. And it's not funny. The punchlines aren't funny anymore. They're tired and they're flat. And I think that's shown in the fact that he got zero bump out of that convention. Nothing. Even after getting, shot or hit by shrapnel or whatever came out of the glass, even with the ear thing, no real bump. Kind of got to be reeling by the fact that Harris is now in this, where he kind of had it won. And I agree with Jim Justice. Maybe they shouldn't have pushed so hard to get Joe Biden out, because now it's gonna jump up and bite him in the behind. In fact, Stuart Stevens, he's a Republican strategist. He says, I think Harris is going to win. And he says, I don't think it's going to be close. Maybe October 20th, it's going to fall apart for Trump. I don't know why October 20th is the day that he's chosen, but I do see him falling apart in this moment, not knowing how to react, going to the Black Journalists Conference and totally tanking. And when you're vice president, when the guy that you've picked to be at your side, to be your running mate, when he says that he doesn't matter, it's an interesting, he picked me, but I'm of no consequence. I'm not going to help this ticket. He's on his own. When your vice president is bailing on you, and telling it's all about Harris and Trump. It's not about me. No, this got nothing to do with me. Kind of makes you wonder where we are. Now, as I said, I don't think it's going to be close unless a lot of the shenanigans that Republicans have been trying to do to tap down the vote in certain places, like we talked about with the Elon Musk thing, that should anger everybody. That's one of those things where you go, shouldn't we be? Here's somebody who has too much money to do evil things with. Maybe we should tax it and spend it on roads and bridges and education and healthcare and who knows what. Maybe ice cream cones on Sundays for children. I don't care. Something more useful than, another PAC, another super PAC funding billionaire candidates to do bad things. Maybe something better. And the reason I keep coming back to this is we know what they're going to do. Project 2025 is out there. That is the agenda. The patronage hires that they are right now vetting, that is real. That is happening. And they're telling us this is what they want to do. So I go back to where I started today. 43 years ago today, Ronald Reagan fired the Patco workers. Unions endorsed, my union, the Teamsters, endorsed Ronald Reagan. The Patco workers endorsed Ronald Reagan. And he stabbed them in the back, along with a lot of other unions during his tenure. And what have we seen? We've seen a massive decline in union density, and not just union density, but standard of living. Even if you're not a union member, even if you've never been in a union, the fact that there are union members and the fact that their numbers were much higher meant wages were higher for everyone, which meant people were making higher wages and spending it in communities, which was creating that reverberation effect we talk about, which was a snowball to building the most prosperous working class in history. And Reagan did a real good job of tearing that apart. And now Trump and the Republicans, the MAGA folks with Project 2025, want to finish the job. And this election means an awful lot more than just, which popularity contest wins. It's about the future. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Miss any portion of the program, grab the podcast, freespeech.org. And as always, thanks for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.